Title: The Forgotten File. It was a rainy evening in a small, overlooked town, where the humdrum of life barely touched the darker aspects of the human psyche. Young Dylan, forever the curious sort, stumbled across a peculiar file while exploring the dusty attic of his late grandfather's house. The file was old, bound with fraying string, and marked with the words, SCP Foundation, Investigation Report 6124. Quote, curiosity piqued, he untied the string and carefully turned the yellowed pages. Dylan's heart raced as he read about SCP 6124, the Whispering Shadows. According to the report, the entity was a mass of darkness resembling smoke, able to manifest within the shadows of any living being. It fed on fear, growing stronger the more terror it sensed. The description got under Dylan's skin. He was a skeptic at heart, but there was something unsettling about the file. The last entry mentioned several incidents of disappearance within a 2-mile radius of the entity's last known location. This was alarming enough, but what truly caught his eye was a chilling photograph taped to the last page, a blurred figure, half-formed, lurking in the shadows of a house. A familiar house. Dylan's heart dropped as he recognized it as his own. Dylan felt the unease creep into him, but he defined his fear as mere fancy. After all, it was just an old document. The rain intensified outside, rattling the windows and adding to the eerie atmosphere in the dim attic. Shaking off a shiver, he shoved the file into his backpack and decided to head down, grounding himself in the comforting memory of his grandfather's stories. That night, while his father slept heavily in the other room, Dylan cracked open the file again, eager to dissect every detail. An urgent whisper echoed through the silence, emanating from the dark corners of his room. He turned sharply to face the shadows, his heart racing. It's all in your head, he muttered, though he felt that the air around him seemed oddly charged, as if something was waiting to pounce. Through the crackling silence, he heard soft whimpers, like the sound of a frightened voice echoing within the walls. He turned off his lamp, thinking it would help him see better in the dark, but all it did was plunge him into a deeper abyss. The whispers grew louder, swirling around him in a hypnotic chant, come and play, come and stay. Quote, fighting the instinct to flee, Dylan reached for his phone, lighting up the screen, illuminating the corners of his room. The phrase, am I in danger, spun in his mind, urging him to escape the haunting. But he had to know. Dylan crawled through the shadows, checking the dark spaces nearby. The whispers intensified, an urgent crescendo of fears he'd hidden away. Fear feeds me, they repeated, wrapping like a noose around his thoughts. Fighting back tears, he pulled out the file. There were notes in the margins, warnings scribbled rapidly. Do not make contact with shadows. Leave town immediately. His heart pounded. Fumbling through the folder, a crumpled piece of paper fluttered into his lap. It detailed an instance where a family had gone missing in the area, right after they experienced a strange disturbance in their home. Dylan's breath caught in his throat. The shadows in his room seemed to pulse closer, weaving themselves into aberrant shapes. Unable to resist the pull of dread any longer, he darted from his room, rushing down the dimly lit hallway toward his father. Each step echoed louder than the last, the darkness clawing at his back. Suddenly, the whispers shifted, turning sinister. Leave him. Join us. The shadows, now twisted tendrils, slithered around him, blocking his path. Time warped as dread seeped into his veins. Dylan stopped at his father's door, breathing heavily as he raised a trembling hand to knock. Then he heard it, a low growl echoing behind him. He turned, heart stopping as he faced the expanding darkness. From within it, the figure from the photograph materialized, all elongated limbs and hollow, hungry eyes. It reached a hand toward him, fingers twitching with a ghastly eagerness. The feeling was suffocating. He was being crushed by a weight of sheer terror. Help me, he shouted, instinctively knocking on the door. But instead of opening, the world around him widened, unraveling like a dream. The monstrous shape flickered, blending with the shadows and receding, leaving only its bone-chilling whispers behind. Join us, join us, join us. With a final surge of adrenaline, Dylan yanked the door open and all but shoved himself inside his father's room. He crashed into the bed, shaking his dad awake. We need to leave. It's coming. The dull haze of sleep vanished from his father's eyes as he registered his son's obvious distress. Stepping from the bed, his father glanced toward the door, unease creasing his brow before he reached for the lamp. As light flooded the room, the shadows retreated, yet Dylan felt the cold breath of SCP-6124 lurking at the edges, whispering promises of fear. In that moment, he understood. Darkness always hungered, but light offered a fleeting truth. The SCP Foundation's warnings reflected somewhere deep in his mind, a realm where fear and oblivion threatened to consume the unwitting. "We're leaving," his father asserted, and as they bolted for the door, Dylan cast a wary glance toward the shadows that had stretched across the floor, vowing not to ever return to that attic, nor uncover the files that hid such dark realities. But as they stepped into the storm, the softest whisper followed them. "We are always watching."